welcome to Coffee with Keep Arizona Blue Student Coalition, where we get into everything politics all over a cup of coffee. And today we are so excited to be joined by Tempe Elementary School District Board Member Allison Ewers. Board Member Ewers has had an extensive history of public service in the state of Arizona, including being the Leading for Change Board Chair, committee member for the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair, and a board member of the Landings Credit Union, a bank established in a school closet by teachers for teachers. Being a mother and having served since 2020 on the school board, she understands deeply the challenges students are facing in our public education system. And we are just so thankful to have you, board member yours, who is currently the board president. And we're just so excited to speak with you today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. So, as much as these conversations can get very deep and very serious, I want to talk about something a little bit more fun first, and that is the mug that you brought to
Okay,
Coffee with Arizona Blue
so
today.
this is my favorite mug that I'm using today, which is actually tumbler, because I can't use a mug because I tend to spill things easy. So I have to have things with lids. But it has this little Android on the top of it, which is so fun. And it also has a straw. So when I change to cool, I can go to that in the middle of the day. So that is what I'm using today.
A lot smarter than what I would have done. I am constantly spilling everything everywhere,
I spill. I spill.
and
So
you hate to
you
use.
know what? It worked for my toddler and it's going to work for me.
Now that's much smarter than what I'm doing right now. So other than the fact that I do often break ceramic mugs, I do kind of want to know what first sparked your interest in getting involved in your community. Obviously, you've been so heavily involved across various fields, whether it's from the sciences to the business community. Please tell us where that origin began.
Okay, so it started in 2019. Oh no, I'm sorry, back in 2009, actually. My father passed away, and everyone thought that I was going to inherit a lot of money. Long story short, obviously, with my lifestyle now, you can see that I didn't inherit. But with that said, I had people coming out of the closets everywhere saying, "Oh, invest in this or do that." And um, I got a FedEx overnight at my home from someone who was starting a business. And mind you, it's 2009. So we're in the middle of a recession. There's not a lot of return, or if any return on money. And it was guaranteeing me a 30% return on my money if I invested in this new endeavor. And the new endeavor is what now we call charter schools. But at the time, I'd heard a little buzz, but I didn't know much about it. I didn't have a kid at the time. Those are the old days. So you actually had to fax things. So I faxed it to my attorney in the middle of the night. And I said, I'm willing to pay you money. I want to know if this is legal.
Yeah.
So we went through it. Boo. She read it. She called me the next day and she said, it's absolutely legal. And I said, okay, so it's legal for taxpayers to pay people who are not in education to form a school, put me on the board, and I am a beneficiary, if we so choose, to make profit or sell the building later of the profits with taxpayer money. And it's not money laundering. And she said, yes, it's legal. And that moment, I knew we had a serious state problem with education. I didn't have a child at the time. I was told I wasn't able to have children, so that wasn't on my mind. What I knew was that this looked to be something that was, one, going to vary public education, and all of my family is teachers, principals, teachers, superintendents, athletic directors. I didn't know any different of what a career was until I got to college, and I so chose a different path. I was the only one that had the different path besides my father's side, who were engineers. So I'm looking at my family's in public education. I understand public education. It's the one thing that I know as a career. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wait a second, this is abuse of taxpayer money. So I originally started off just worried about schools and worried about the abuse of our money. And so I just started digging in deeply with it. And I went to our state committee meeting, the Democratic State Committee meeting. And I walked in and I just said, where's the education caucus? Like, I just am going to beeline there. Didn't know anything else about the party, didn't know anything else about running, but I knew that the Democratic Party was the party that was pro public education from my research. And that's how I started. And then I started going to my LD meetings and gathering information and finding about my local schools and how they were performing and what and how they were funded. And somebody asked me if I would run for school board. I originally ran for school board in Kyrene, and I didn't win. And then later I chose to move into my Tempe home. And I, not because of running or not running, it just worked out conveniently for when I found out I was pregnant with my son. I wanted to raise him in Tempe rather than in Ahwatukee. And my dad's home was here. And I said, okay, I'm not going to rent my dad's home. I'm going to move in. Somebody approached me again and said, would you run for school board again? And I did. And then I've been on it since for the last 5 years.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about too, the transition from just broadly getting involved, what kind of sparked your interest, and then like that motivating factor because running for office is like a full-time job and school board members do not get paid. So that to me, we always say, we're always more than willing to help, especially like young school board members or people run for office, especially at the most local level. But it is a very difficult job, and the campaign for it is just as difficult. So the fact that you ran twice, even after losing the first time, like, thank you for kind of sharing that story because I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially if they do lose the first time they run for office. That doesn't mean you give up and you have no clue where life is going to take you. So,
Yes. And the odds are the first time you aren't going to win.
yeah.
We wrap up so much into winning into politics, and I'll tell you, I did win in that campaign. I won because the message that I was sending out, no one else was doing. And I made hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, people aware of something and another reason for them to support their public schools. So even if I won or not, I knew my win. And so that's what I would encourage any, not even if it's I say young person, anyone new to, it doesn't matter your age, anybody young to campaigning, you have to come up with your win inside, right? Like you don't have to tell other people your win because your win for the rest of the world is I'm going to win. I need you to support me. I need your donations. I need this, right? But your win internally, you have to be really comfortable and solid with so that if you don't win the election, you had a win. Because if you don't have a win, then you just feel like you might have wasted your time, you might have wasted your money, you might be embarrassed in front of your friends. There's all of these things that go into it emotionally, physically. And that's why it's important to establish your win. What is your win that you know is attainable? And be okay when you attain that. And then if you win or lose, it doesn't matter. And you can stay in the game because you're going to learn along the way where you're needed the most. And it might not be as a candidate at the time, which for me, it wasn't. I went into something else that we'll talk about later, or that you mentioned was Leading for Change. I went into Leading for Change and I became the chair of that and helping others run for school board, helping others run nonprofits that help our schools. So I was able to channel that same exact energy into something that wasn't necessarily the win of an election, but because I had run, I was able to get the experience that I needed to be better at my Leading for Change chair position.
Yeah. And that's what I do love. I will say I'm also a part of like I went through the Leading for Change Fellowship program. I understand how important that program was for me in continuing my kind of political education. And there's so much that you can get out of running for office that isn't actually getting elected, but really building the bench for other people. And so, especially like our organization too, is always encouraging people like run and we'll support you and at least have that kind of like base level, like we're going to get people excited about you and you may not win. That doesn't mean that it didn't meaningfully contribute to the future of that district or city or school district, whatever it is.
And
Um,
it may open the door to something that's even better that you had no idea was even in your future.
yeah, absolutely. And again, you just never know where life is going to take you. So I appreciate you kind of explaining that experience that you went through.
Yeah.
But really, something I want to touch on kind of throughout. your time. I mean, public education has just faced so many challenges. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I went through the Chandler Unified School District my entire, primary school life, from kindergarten to my senior year of high school. And I just want to know, throughout your time on the board, like, what would you say have been some of your most significant accomplishments through your time?
Okay, well, first I have to preface a few things when answering that question. I have a really unique board. I have a unique situation that I can say most, no, I can say that a lot of other districts and other states don't have. I have a 5-person board that is all about our scholars, 100%. They don't care about the party. They don't care about the rhetoric or what's going on or whatever. With that said, add a really good superintendent like Dr. Driscoll, and we're able to reimagine education no matter what they throw at us. Because there's no time wasted with infighting. There's no time wasted with showboating. There's no time wasted on noise. I have to say I'm just grateful to work with the group that I work with, because we're all about getting down to what we have to work with, and how do we make it work for our kids, our teachers, and our families, period. Everybody that I've ever worked with on that board has stayed that way. It's our culture. I'm hoping that because every 2 years, you're vulnerable, right? Like, who are you going to get in? And a lot of times we have people running for these school boards that is not their goal, or that's not what they're being encouraged to do by people who are helping them run. And so far, the city of Tempe is very pro public education, just as far as the people who live in it and the board. So I'm grateful for that. So it makes it easier. So the challenges that we get it seems like there's more and more and more of them all the time. Where I don't let it get me down as president is that it just is. And that's something probably that you learn in Leading for Change, is that it just is. So are you going to do something with what you got, and you're going to do something about it, or are you going to keep fighting this? I could fight all day long, but that's not my job. My job is to take the money that the state does give us, take the money that our taxpayers give us, and do the best with it what we can. And we've been able to what we call reimagine education. I think that the United States has a lot of work to do here. We have a lot of potential to grow, and a few things that we're working on now. And I know we talk about this in a bit, but it will be our bonds passing will affect how successful these are. But you're going to hear of a lot of districts who are having to close their schools. Several reasons. Enrollment is down because people aren't having as many kids. Your generation is waiting to have kids because they can't afford to have kids, can't even afford to buy a house. I mean, it's not family friendly right now, right? 2, we have ESAs who are pulling from our budgets constantly. When you pull from our budgets, you're also pulling heads, and we get paid by head count. And 3, the charter system has separated us some. In Tempe Elementary, our schools are really, really good. We haven't been as affected by that as much. We are affected, but it's not the biggest. The biggest is the fact that our neighborhoods have people who have lived here for over 50, 60 years. They're still living here. They no longer have kids in college or in high school. And any newer families are finding it really hard to afford to buy a home here. Okay. So we have lower enrollment. We have less coming from the state. We're grateful to be in a community that will do whatever they can to make sure that we have the needs we need, even bonds, overrides, companies who give donations, groups that are helping out with health and supplies and things like that. So we're unique there. Where we're reinventing, instead of closing schools, which districts are having to do, is we have 3 particular areas that we went for. 1, we were losing students in middle school to districts who had like Aspire Academies, PACE Academies, Accelerated Academies. So we were able to use one of the schools for that in order to have, because we would fill up. So we needed to have another place and broaden that curriculum. So we did that, and that's started now, and that's Aspire Academy in Arredondo. Second one that I'm so excited about is that we're working on Carminati. The building of Carminati is no longer this year used as a traditional elementary school. We're going through the process of figuring out and getting the budget for everything that we need to do to make it a 0 to 5 school. And why a 0 to 5 school? Well, one, there's not enough childcare in Tempe for new families. The first thing they say is, you have childcare, but it's really expensive. It's going to be thousands of dollars for me. I don't even make thousands of dollars in my job, right? So that was a hindrance for people coming in to the city. Number two, me as a self-employed business owner, when I had my child, it was really hard to work full-time, take care of my kid. And then I didn't, thank God my mom was around. I didn't have the money for childcare. We are working on this center so that corporations who want to come to the city of Tempe, for families who want to move here, we have reasonably priced, low cost or no cost care. What that also does is it allows us to start at an early age with pre-K. So this nation is the only nation, and the state of Arizona is among the states who do not fund pre-K and full day kindergarten. It's crazy. So if we have this Carminati school, we're able to, one, take care of the child and develop the child and get them ready for school. Being ready for school by the time they go into kindergarten, and especially by the time they go to first grade, sets the trajectory for the rest of their life. If they're struggling at the beginning, if they lose a few months just learning where to hang your backpack, or that how do you get your lunch in the lunchroom, all of these little things that we take for granted are learning experiences, but they cut into the time of learning what you need to learn, like your reading, your writing, your arithmetic, your skills, right? So Carminati is going to be awesome. The community asked, well, no one's ever done this, so it's probably going to fail. Why would you do it? Well, then that leads me into the second thing that they said the same thing about, and then I'll give you the answer on that. So the third thing is fees. It's one of our schools also where students have moved to neighboring schools. And at the fee school, we're making it a center for the kids for their extracurriculars. And we are asking the students what extracurriculars do they want. And then we're going to apply the curriculum and the standards to that. So every student, like right now, I'm sure when you went to school, the school that you chose might have had jazz band and regular band, but no orchestra. Or they might have had culinary, but they didn't have pottery, right? Or ceramics. We want to offer every student in Tempe Elementary anything that they want. So we're able to bus them from their home school to this center, because you can't have everything everywhere and afford that anymore. Before, we used to be able to equip schools with everything. Sure, you want culinary, we'll build a kitchen. Sure, you want music, we'll do this in every school. You can't do that anymore. So we can't concentrate it in one location at a high level and have it available to every single student. So based on what their home school is, they don't have to choose to go or not go to that school because they wanted to do concert band. They wanted to do shop. They wanted to do robotics. So that's what we're doing with our third building. And when the community came and said, well, no one else is doing it, there's got to be a reason. I said, no, shame on them for not trying. So we will be one of the first districts in the country who's reimagining education and our buildings and our people and our teachers and our scholars so that we can continue to offer another level of education and not have to give anything up.
And I'm so glad to hear that type of programming, because it is so difficult. And I did have a unique experience where there were a lot of things I probably would have chosen to do in elementary school that I didn't have the ability to. Um, but, and then I know from students who were across the state that didn't go to my district, I would always be so jealous, right? Like if they had different opportunities than me.
And you're like, oh my God, I didn't have dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that school did, but I didn't really, my friends weren't going there. I don't want anything to hinder any student from what gets them excited about learning.
Yeah.
Period. Right? I mean, going to take your math test doesn't make you excited to get on the school bus and get to school.
No.
But if you were doing math and culinary and you were making a cuisine today and that you could take home and show your parents how you were making, or you were, creating something in ceramics that is your first art piece that we could put in an art show in the city of Tempe when they do that at the end of the year, like that's learning, right? That's applying the skill set to doing it. We need to, we want to, and we are going to offer more of that at Tempe Elementary.
Well, thank you for explaining that and kind of going based off of that and making sure that our schools have all the resources they need that we briefly touched on. I do want to speak about the bond and override elections. We know that they come up periodically in school districts across the state of Arizona. And I just want to know from you if you could share kind of how the 2024 bond and override impacted your district specifically and just why you think and know that these measures are really important more broadly across the state, especially in my home district, Chandler, that's coming up soon.
Okay, so like I said, we have a community that supports public education. Not not that they don't support education, they don't understand that supporting the bonds and overrides is a way to show your affection for public education, right?
Yeah.
The other problem is a lot of people don't have any extra money to give, right? They're some of these districts in these cities are like any more taxes is what they're afraid of, and that they don't have any extra money to give. So those are reasons why bonds and overrides don't pass. And we've been very fiscally responsible. A lot of our bonds and overrides have just been maintaining the tax rate that we have now instead of raising. Any times that we've had raises, we've been very cognizant to the population that we have here. A lot of them are retirees and on set budgets. So we haven't had to do, some districts have to go crazy on what they're asking for in their bonds and overrides because one, they don't pass or they don't do them as regularly. And there's this big gap. We've been really good, but the population, but the community has helped us maintain that because they've always supported it and felt comfortable. Hopefully they feel comfortable because they see us doing stuff with it. So in the things that bonds and overrides have helped in the past is that one of the big ones is the music program. Our instruments were like falling apart a few years ago. Just like they were just old. Like my husband went to Hudson, which is now Cali. He was in band there. His instrument, he's 54 years old. His instrument was still in circulation at Tempe Elementary, right? So thanks to the taxpayers, they were able to do that. Every single student was able, in every single school, got new equipment. All new equipment, everybody. And did we see an increase in the amount of interest and the amount of kids who were going into the music program? Absolutely. And we were able to just make it better, right? Make the rooms better, the facility better, all of that. That the state would not support something like that. So that's when it's important for those to pass. Our bond, like I told you, we have these two especially new innovative schools that we wouldn't be able to do with the cuts from the state and the federal government. We're going to have to do them with public support. Our buildings. So we are getting ready to rebuild Connolly and Curry here soon. It was not on our list yet to rebuild, but the amount of maintenance that those buildings have started to cost is not cost effective for the taxpayers, right? My job is to be fiscally responsible for my taxpayers, and we were spending more money on those buildings than it would be to just start over. It was time. The building has lived through its lifespan. So thanks to the community for passing our bonds, we are able to do things like that. What does that do for community? One, it makes our schools, it increases the innovation technology ability in the schools, which we know we need because I think things have changed. The fact that you and I are doing this interview on a screen right now is crazy because I can tell you in 1970, that was not the case, right? And that students are using computers now. That was not the case. And that Xerox machines, like what's a Xerox machine? We have these little printers. If we need printers, we don't even use printers. So it's able to, one, step up into the post 2020 scholars needs, right? Two, these buildings are beautiful. They become community centers For instance, between Connolly and Curry, we're going to have a community sports complex, indoor running track, outdoor running track, rentable fields, weight rooms. All of that doesn't exist now, right? So the community at a very low cost, they can bring their teams there, they can bring their students there. So it's a community plus. And then on a third level, because the buildings will be nicer, newer, landscaping better, all of that, it increases the property value of your neighborhood. So giving to us allows us to give back to them in full circle, right? Those districts where these things don't pass, they're really confined on how innovative they can get, and the buildings that they're using, they just have, that's what they have to use. So I'm grateful for the support. I know our kids are grateful for the support. It does help bring in more children too, because me growing up, a nice new school, that's awesome, right? Like that just feels good when you walk in. Yeah. So that is why they're important. They're important for us to continue to provide the new needs of the kids and the neighborhood, not just our kids. And
yeah,
I want to put a caveat on here.
yeah.
Do I think the district should have to go out for bonds and overrides? No. I think it's a really bad system. It's a really bad way to fund public education. And it just allows state legislators to kick the can. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. And so I do encourage all of you, as you look at candidates, look at candidates who are going to truly support education, or they can going to continue to throw the need, to who can get it, right? Like, oh, well, they can get it. I'm sorry, they can't get it. I don't think any kid in a district whose bonds and overrides don't pass is any more or less important than my kids in my district. They're all our future. So that bothers me. But like I told you earlier, you have to do with what you got. Yeah. And that's a system we have.
Yeah. And I really like that you mentioned at the end, and I think that we need to be holding state lawmakers accountable. Right. And we need to make sure, it's unfortunate that we have this situation we have. But when we do, it's important that we're also fully informing people of what a bond and override is. That's really why I wanted to touch on it. So many people, I think, can kind of slide by without being too informed. And they think, oh, it's just an increase in my tax dollars. But truthfully, you're investing in students who are going to invest back into your broader community. And
absolutely.
Yep. That is like the best that's the most fiscally conservative, fiscally responsible thing you can do, is invest in students who are going to then later invest in a broader capacity in your community. And so
right. And then just to strip it down, right? Like we don't get enough funding to keep our roofs safe. We don't get enough funding to fix the HVAC systems. We don't. If we didn't have the community support, and this is happening in a lot of districts, they have to close down pieces of their schools because one, it's not safe for them to be in the rooms, or two, the air conditioning doesn't work. I mean, this is happening every single day to children in the state of Arizona. Now, we're not saying that they need to be luxurious, brand new buildings. That is not the point. The point is that they need to be in a safe environment. And if those bonds and overrides don't pass, they have to come up with a way to either find a way to fix it. And if they don't, they end up losing that space. And they end up losing what they could be using it for, something that's going to pique the interest and make that spark in a kid that allows them to be the person they want to be when they grow up.
Yeah, and it's so important. So thank you for emphasizing that and bringing that up. And kind of on that more brighter note, when we look to the future and think like there is a way that we can have fully funded schools, right? We are finding new ways. That's what the bond override is doing, supplementing our lack of state resources. What do you think are your top priorities kind of in the years going forward, whether it is in your position as a school board member or just as an activist broadly? What gives you kind of the motivation to keep going, facing so many hurdles?
Well, the good thing is that I'm a mom. So that right there makes me 100% vested, right? But even if I wasn't, I would be at this level and any level that I can get to. Our children, your generation, and the one after you is what makes this country next. It's the next phase of our country. Mm-hmm. We don't start taking care of you all now. What makes me think that you're going to take care of us?
Yeah.
And I have had the luxury in my life of being able to travel around to other countries, such as Australia, Europe. In France, I was a foreign exchange student over there, and they value public education at a much higher level than we're doing here. And it's a disservice to the future and their future. Being on the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair Committee, where I help run the fair for the world winners. The winners from around the world come to us, right? So I'm able to see how amazing and innovative children of the next generation are. I mean, it's hard when I check them in for their projects as I don't understand what they're doing, but I'm grateful that they're doing it, right? It's so beyond what I can imagine being over 50 years old, right? It just blows my mind. But you're shaping what our world is going to look like next. We also need to put the money. I can guarantee you over 100% return on your money. I can guarantee it, right? Not 7%, 8% on the market. You're good if you get 22. Oh my God, crazy at 30. Every dollar that somebody invests in education for a child, if you continue to support that child and continue to support teachers that we pay them correctly so they're the best teachers we can find, right, for this next generation, the output equals the best civilian, neighbor, friend, board member that we can have in our lives in this next stage.
Yeah.
The fact that we're not investing in children in this country should be, we should be on the streets on this. Everybody should just be outraged right now that, I mean, to not support, there's these other countries, they're like, wait a second, once you have a child, we send a nurse to help you with that child, right? Like it's part of your plan. Everyone has health insurance. We take care of the family. The mother gets maternity care. The father gets paternity care. Then they get into an age where they need preschool or they need daycare, okay? Provided by these other countries to families. So that's family friendly. Then pre-K, they can't imagine not having pre-K. And they can't imagine that, like, not every child has kindergarten or can even go to kindergarten. They cannot imagine it. They're winning because their kids are doing better because their kids are in the developmental stage that they should be. If we keep, taking it down and we're only going to start teaching kids at this age and this age, your brains absorb the most and learn the most from 1 to 4 years old. That's your biggest sponge farm, right? Kids who learn multiple languages will never forget all those languages in that time. Kids who are exposed to certain things, well, that thing that they are exposed to becomes a part of them for the rest of their lives, and usually will result in what they end up doing or giving back to society. Every single one of our jobs is always giving back to society. You're giving back to your workplace. You're giving back to, if you're serving, you're giving back to me. You're making sure that I have a good meal. It doesn't matter if you make $5 an hour or $500 an hour. My district needs to prepare you to do what it is that you choose to do at the best level that you can do it. And the only way that I know to give that child the opportunity is to support families, first of all, right? It's not just about the schools, it's supporting the families. And second of all, when we have those kiddos in our care, custody, control, give them everything we can so that they have choices. And I think that's where we're missing the boat in this country. I think this country's gotten so focused on profit over people. And I'm not saying it all has to be kumbaya, and I'm not saying that money doesn't run things and help things, but I'm saying that our priorities are not in the right spot. And I'm doing my best to encourage myself and everyone that I touch around me to realize where their priorities need to be. Because if they don't think it affects them in every single way, all the way down to how they're treated, how they eat, what healthcare choices they have, how they're taken care of, what happens with the Social Security, Medicare. All of that is completely reliant on how well I do with these kiddos when I have them for the few hours that we get to have them.
Yeah.
And you can argue with me all day, but I'm gonna win this argument.
No, you are right. I will not argue with you on that. So, but I completely agree. We need to make sure that we're putting people over profits. And that goes for all sectors, but specifically when we talk about public education, it is so important.
Yep.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And kind of, I know as chaotic as life can get and as stressful as this fight is, because it truly is a fight to make sure that we're prioritizing students, I do just kind of want to know from you, what is your favorite place that Tempe Elementary District covers, or at least your city covers, that you like to go for coffee or even a bite to eat?
Okay, I have two faves. So I have a lot of faves, but
Okay,
you asked for two, like the coffee and the food.
bite to eat.
So my first is Brick Road Coffee, because
Yeah.
one, they're so supportive. They totally get it. Anytime our families need something, and it doesn't even matter with our schools, they are there and there to help, right? And they also believe in allowing people to get the word out, right? They're not scared of having a table in front that talks about the Girl Scouts, or having a table in front that talks about bonds and overrides, or having a table out that talks about our, our LGBTQ AI plus youth. They're not scared of that. They embrace it. They love it, and the community loves them for it. So it's not just a coffee shop. Like they've taken this to a whole other level. And then my second is Casa Reynoso Mexican food off of Mill Avenue in Southern, kind of in the corner. They've been there my whole life growing up. It's like my favorite Mexican food. It's locally owned, mom pop. And I probably go there like 3 or 4 times a week. I was sad because the last couple of weeks they've been on summer break because they actually go on vacation and shut down the restaurant. It's the hardest 2 weeks of my family's life. Like it's just
Oh,
So I'm going tomorrow. Tomorrow we're already on for dinner because they're back open. So they open back up today.
well, you
So
might be there.
come by to Casa Reynoso.
Okay. Well, you might be there because sometimes maybe people think I'm asking just for this video, but I actually love food so much. So to be
Okay.
quite honest, I'm just
Yeah.
asking for myself as well. So thank you for letting me
No,
know. That's great.
priced, great service. The family runs it. You'll become part of the family. They've watched Brody grow up there. It's been awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for plugging those two places. And of course, Keep Arizona Blue loves Brick Road Coffee. Because especially because it's in Tempe and I go to Arizona State University, so it's very close by.
Yeah.
But yes, well, thank you so much, Allison. I really appreciate you coming and talking about this, especially as we are going to have bond and overrides coming up in the year of 2025 very soon. So it's really
And we'll
important.
be doing a bond. Tempe will be doing a bond. And about there's a certain amount of time legally that we're able to work in.
Hmm.
And I'm speaking to you right now, not as a school board member, because I also have to keep that separated. I'm speaking to you as a mother and a community member. You'll start seeing some information on that coming out.
Good.
We do have a school board meeting where you can go back and check it out of why we're doing it, what we're doing it for, all the numbers, things like that, because we're completely transparent with it. But I also have to thank you all, because you could have given up on us adults, right? You could have given up on all of us, and you're not. You're making us better people, and you're reminding me every day when I see your work and I see your team and I see you guys out and hustling for all people, all children. I'm grateful because you're doing a really, really good job, and you're reminding me of why I'm doing it. So when you start to get tired, just know that it's probably because I sucked some fuel from you in order to use it for me when I need it. But I just tell all the gang that I'm so appreciative of what they do. and they make us a better place. They make Arizona a better place because you're not just in Tempe, you're Arizona. And a lot of the stuff and the work that you do and the things that I see you touch, I want people to know it's not just in the state. You guys are single-handedly touching other states with your work and your ideas.